what's interesting is that even though the World Economic Forum paints himself as this sort of atheist, non-spiritual entity that's governed the world, they see that there is a spiritual side to it, which is the deception part that I think all Christians should know, is that they see themselves as gods, and through technology, they want to aspire to godhood. They want to ascend to godhood, and they do it through technology, through immortality, through different means, AI, downloading your brain and your soul, they say, into some kind of beehive mind that's going to be controlled by AI, and they're going to live on forever, and maybe changing rejuvenation of the body and technology that's going to come on. They believe they're going to become gods, and they're going to be sovereign over humans, the useless eaters, as they call. So they see themselves as the ones that will determine whether you're going to have a car or whether you're going to have food. And it's turning into an antichrist system. I think this is where Christians need to really understand whether they believe in Antichrist or not. There's large portions of the church that have spiritualized a lot of these prophecies in Daniel and prophecies in the book of Revelation, as well as First John, and they just either relegate it to the spiritual meaning, or that these were things in the past. Lots parts of the church do not see it as some future meaning in terms of the actual thing that is going to happen as described in a literal way in Revelation. So the system is being set up. Christians don't know about it. The same model that exists right now in the CCP, that is basically corporate fascism controlled by the government, and you either get in line or you're going to be obsolete. And so cars are gone, energy crisis, food crisis. They'll give you a medicine if they want to. Your churches, and this is the key part for believers, can be shut down, as we experienced in the last few years. And why couldn't we see this? Why can't we see this? This is my, my point. It is a spiritual component to it. It is available to read it. It's nothing really mysterious about it, but yet very few people even care to know or even understand that this is the deception that is coming around upon the whole world. Think about this: is like, who would have thought 4 or 5 years ago, what would have told you, some kind of virus, cold virus, was going to shut down the whole world? You probably would have laughed and say, that's never going to happen. What are you thinking? And yet that was the facade, but behind it all, it was surveillance, it was technology, it was control. And now we're in a different world. As Jacob has always told us, the new normal is not going back to the old normal. It's just the new normal. But one thing they've done, and I want to switch gears here, they destabilize countries. You will go to Jay first. Jay, we've seen Niger, we've seen Nigeria. Of course, Niger's closing up to Russia now. They told the U.S. to go away, and they're closing up to Russia. Brazil says they will invest into the new global government and will cede sovereignty because of the climate emergency. This is the Lula da Silva in Brazil. But now South Africa, as Jacob was going to point out, and the video is going to come out, they destabilized for a while now, but it's coming very, very fast. Shoot the Boer, which means white farmers. Shoot him is what they're saying. Lots of crime, lots of issues. We watched the video of Molina and the EFF, very similar to the Antifa groups here. But what do you think? The destabilizing of many countries. You've seen Canada, the U.S. is going through it, but you've seen other nations now going down the same road.
I think it's very convenient that most of the leaders are trained at the WEF.
Oh, yeah.
You get your stamp of approval from them, and suddenly you have a political career. I'm not seeing homespun politicians from obscure districts suddenly rising to power. I'm seeing people who have talked the World Economic Forum, who have association with the World Economic Forum. It's almost as if it was the way they act, the World Economic Forum, it's like they are part of the UN, and they are basically, it's a world government, and they determine who's going to lead. And of course, if you're not on board, they're going to either destabilize you or a country next to you that will cause you problems.
As in the case, Nigeria, other countries, and then that migration crisis going north, as Jacob was talking about it on his video, is this civilization of those countries, and now it's spilling over into countries that didn't have as much instability. That's very true, very true. The South Africa one really concerns me, just because there's believers there. We love them. There's a Memorial branch there. We have a lot of relationships with them. And David, you've been there. You've been there plenty of times to South Africa. You've seen the deterioration. You've seen the days of Nelson Mandela. You've seen the days of, even before him, of apartheid, and all these things. And then the shift and the change. And now you have basically what you would call racism against the white South Africans, and now violence against them, and now government inspired persecution of white South Africans. Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah. The ANC, who was the major political party of Nelson Mandela, while I truly believed he loved the people, but he was, there's videos on oh my goodness, I can't believe it.
Rumble,
no, not just Rumble, but on YouTube, of him singing the song "To Kill the Boer," machine gun them in the streets. You could Google Mandela singing the Boer song, BOER. And it's there. But he would dance after he was let out of jail and sing this. So there was always that hatred, and it was building. Even 25 years ago, when I remember going there, or maybe even further, after it was turned over, even some of the black men that we work with, they would say, "Hey, look, apartheid was bad enough." But he said, now we know that our black leaders are making it bad on us. He says, at least under apartheid, the buses ran, the trains ran. You could go to the hospital. There was some semblance of a society, but it's just been falling apart. And what I saw change is all of a sudden there were brothels put right in the middle of cities. There were gambling joints that were increasing, every way to corrupt the society through complete freedom without responsibility. And that's what you're seeing there. I remember going down a road at night, and gangs would be on the side of the road, and they'd have rocks, and they would put across the road to stop people, and then they would hijack them. And it was just, I just saw the denigration. I saw people I knew that were stabbed and killed in downtown Johannesburg. So it's been devolving for a long time. And Jacob does a good commentary on it. But but the same thing, Zimbabwe. I knew farmers from there that were killed because they were farmers, and they wanted the land. And they promised, what's interesting is the government that's coming in that wants the land, they promise the poor people they can have a land. But what they do is when the division comes, the rich people get all the good ground, and the poor people get the garbage land out there where nothing can grow. They still keep them in an even deeper poverty. So, and they're following the same pattern there in South Africa.